All right, let's start. We will start with this stuff going on in North Korea, and obviously this is kind of escalating. And what happened was, you know, they're testing all these missiles, making all these threats, and there is now some information that they may possibly have reduced one of their nuclear weapons to the size where it can go on a missile, which makes them obviously a lot more dangerous. And we have responded. Nikki Haley was the UN ambassador, went and got the Security Council to vote 15-0, including China and Russia, to put these incredible sanctions on North Korea. But, you know, it cuts like, I don't know, something like a third of their, it's the eighth set of sanctions in 11 years. It's intended to cut the country's annual export revenue by $1 billion, about a third of its current total. You know, they still can fund their nuclear weapons program. We don't know how they they have a lot of illegal money. Their economy seems to be doing fine. I don't know if it's helpful, but it drove Kim Jong-un a little crazy, and he started throwing out these threats. So yesterday, they go to our president, who's supposed to be on vacation. He was announcing a new program to help with opioid addiction. And they said, well, what about North Korea? And here was Trump's response.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly, power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you. Thank you.
So, you know, of course, Kim Jong-un immediately responded, remembering his relationship with the old dictator, his father, Kim Jong-il.
I don't need my father. I am strong.
Okay, that's not actually, it was something a little bit more on the order of, I'm going to bomb Guam. Okay, that was what he said. He's going to respond 1,000 times with power and fury. So they're all screaming at one another. I just hope that Trump comes across as so nutty that, like, Kim Jong-un is going, oh, that man is like me. He's crazy on me. I'm not going to bomb those people. But anyway, what I loved about this is I have to talk about the coverage. I mean, obviously, this is a situation without a lot of good options. You know, we can wipe them off the face of the map with our arsenal, but South Korea is there. And of course, who wants to let loose with these kinds of weapons and all this stuff? There's not a lot of good things. Rex Tillerson is trying to damp down the rhetoric and trying to make it, say that because we've now got this UN security resolution, maybe China and Russia will actually pitch in and get this clown. I mean, the guy's a clown. He's a nut. And North Korea is terrible. But I just want to comment a little bit on the coverage, right? Trump has that way of talking. We all know this Trumpian way of talking. And I'm fire and fury and all this stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, let Kim Jong-un worry about him. Let him strike some fear into the guy's heart. But the press reacts to everything Trump does as if no one else has ever done this stuff before, and it's always different when Trump does it. My favorite is Brian Williams, right? He had just returned, I think he had parachuted into Pandora, where he was helping the Na'vi, restore the Unga Lunga tree or something. Why is this guy even still on the air? I mean, it's like, being a leftist means never having to say you're sorry. I mean, this is the guy who bowed to the president of the United States. He bowed to Barack Obama. He actually bowed as if the guy were the satrap of a Eastern country. He made up all these stories. He's still on there. And this is how he sees the press's job in covering North Korea and Donald Trump.
Our job tonight actually is to scare people to death on this subject, so the talk isn't as free as it is about a preemptive or surgical military strike. You know that part of the world. The population centers, Andrea and the general have talked about, South Korea, the Japanese, and so on and so on.
Well, it's very true, as Andrea and the general put just so succinctly. This is not a viable military option. This is not Syria. This is not Iran. This is a hard rock of a military target.
Like he not only tells it's our job to scare him to death. He not only does that, but he tells the guest what to say. You know, it's like they do this on CNN too. It's like, how is the guest going to say it's not really that bad, Brian? You know, I think you're acting a little out of control. But Brian Williams and the rest of the press have decided that this is very different than when Bill Clinton said. Bill Clinton said the same thing. Bill Clinton said that if they developed and used an atomic weapon, we would quickly and overwhelmingly retaliate. This is Bill Clinton. It would mean the end of their country as they know it. The end of their country as they know it. And of course, North Korea reacted the same way with threats, and the rhetoric got all ramped up and all this stuff. But more importantly than that, what we are dealing with is the failure of years that Donald Trump has nothing whatsoever to do with. And I just want to remind you of Bill Clinton in 1994. He made this pact with North Korea, that was going to bring peace in our time. It was going to bring peace in our time, and it was going to completely eliminate the nuclear weapon program, and we were going to give them money to help them with their energy, and they used the money to build their nuclear weapon program. And here's Bill Clinton talking about this in 1994.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. South Korea and our other allies will be better protected. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons. South Korea, with support from Japan and other nations, will bear most of the cost of providing North Korea with fuel to make up for the nuclear energy it is losing. And they will pay for an alternative power system for North Korea that will allow them to produce electricity while making it much harder for them to produce nuclear weapons. The United States and international inspectors will carefully monitor North Korea to make sure it keeps its commitments.
Thanks ever so much, Bill. Thanks ever so much. I mean, and nobody, it's like suddenly this happened because Donald Trump is elected and the press doesn't like Donald Trump. And suddenly Donald Trump's rhetoric is worse than everybody else's rhetoric. Obama had rhetoric like this. He said we could destroy them and all this. Also, while that's fresh in your memory, this is a little off the track, but while that's fresh in your memory, that's 1994, Bill Clinton telling us how great it's going to be that he's made a pact with North Korea, right? And the press was cheering and, hey, we've solved this terrible problem. And now we see that it only exacerbated the problem, only made it worse. Let's skip ahead to 2015. Barack Obama. Remember, Bill Clinton said this is a good deal for the American people. Here's Barack Obama announcing his deal with Iran. And I want you to just remember this 5 years down the road.
Today, after many months of tough, principled diplomacy, we have achieved the framework for that deal. And it is a good deal, a deal that meets our core objectives. This framework would cut off every pathway that Iran could take to develop a nuclear weapon. Iran will face strict limitations on its program, and Iran has also agreed to the most robust and intrusive inspections and transparency regime ever negotiated for any nuclear program in history.
I just want you to remember this, that this is the way the Democrats roll. Look, there's not a lot of good options here. We keep saying this. Tomorrow we're going to have Sebastian Gorka on, the deputy assistant to the president of the United States, and he will talk about this more. He has a lot to say. I've been listening to what he's been saying, and he'll talk about this more. But I mean, there aren't a lot of good options. I get it. But this is the end of years and years of fiddling around and not knowing how to handle this and not really taking a strong tack and not being able to get China off the dime. It obviously, some of the answer lies in starting to threaten that we're going to allow Japan to go nuclear as well, because that's the thing that China doesn't want. And if we ever got serious about that, China might actually step in and stop this guy. I mean, all China wants is the threat to us and us being tangled up in this so they can do what they're doing in the South China Sea.